Hello everyone, a very good evening. Can someone please confirm if I am properly audible?
Yes,
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thanks, great. So, we have around 5 or 6 participants in this session. So, is there any specific reason today for such low strength?
It could be because people are preparing for quiz.
Okay, the quiz is coming this week. Okay, all right. Well, so in today's session, I guess one of you gave suggestions that they wanted to have some session on view components and all. So we have planned something similar for this session. But before we get started with that, we just want to give a small clarification from the last session. So there was basically a question that we discussed. I'll just share my screen so that give you a clear idea. Is my browser screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So the answer for this question that we discussed in the last session, it was the message is Abhishek. This is the answer according to what we discussed in the last session, but that is not correct. So what will happen is the answer will remain the same. That is configured here on the portal. That is the message is Kumar. Well, the reason we are saying that is that whoever or whichever object or whichever view object is defined first in the sequence. So if you will look at the JavaScript file, it is first this object called A, which is associated or which is binded with element app1, then B, which is binded with app2, and C, which is binded with app. So whichever is defined first in this sequence will actually take the precedence here. Well, what will happen is that when this HTML file will be loaded for the first time, it is having this placeholder. Now, this JavaScript file will start getting executed. What will happen is that when the first line of this JavaScript will get executed, there will be a placeholder here. That is message. I'll come to you, Selin. I'll just finish this. Okay, yeah. So when this JavaScript file will start its execution, so this is a placeholder or this is a mistake expression that needs to be updated using some view code or using some JavaScript code. So what will happen is object will get created. It will see, okay, this object has been binded with an element called app1 and app1 is defined in this HTML file. So what will it do is it will replace this message placeholder or this mistake expression with the value that it has. So it says that the value of this message attribute is Kumar. So at that time itself, this message placeholder value will be replaced with the actual value that is Kumar. And now, next time when we come on to these other objects, that is B and C, there is no placeholder. No placeholder exists at this place because whatever was existing before, that has been replaced or hydrated by this object called A because it was the first in the sequence that was executed. So according to this, the answer would be the Abhishek is Kumar due to being defined first in this sequence. Yes, someone was raising hand.
Yes, sir. I
Yes.
had a doubt. The same type of question has been asked in the first quiz in the previous term. The first question of the quiz one previous term, I mean, of the Jan 2022 term. So in that, the answer is given as the one which was associated with app 3. So here they had just overturned the names. So Abhishek was associated with app 1 and Rajput with app 2 and Kumar with app 3. And the correct answer is the message is Kumar. So I wanted to ask if that is correct or all the other things are same, absolutely same. And when we run this on the VS Code or Sublime Text, I mean on local or even on Replit, it actually gives the answer is Abhishek because it is associated with app 1. So just wanted to clarify if there is something wrong with the answer.
We'll basically have to look at that question once I'm
okay,
that
sure,
is still not in my memory. So
I
we'll
had
look
raised it. Someone else had raised it on Discourse as well. So if you can maybe check and reply there. So
okay, yeah, we'll look at it and see if it might be a mistake as well that someone has not noticed that time. We'll look at it. So yeah, that was a clarification, because in the last session we discussed the answer to be something else, but that's not correct. So apologies for that. The logic that we have just discussed is basically something that is used for finding out the answer of this question. So according to this, the answer would be the messages, whatever it is. Yeah, the message is provided. So is this logic clear to everyone? Does anyone has any doubt regarding whatever we discussed right now?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Is there any way to break this this kind of structure? Means, can we forcefully make any one view component to execute?
See, the reason that I'm giving here is that whenever this JavaScript file will start its execution, this placeholder will be replaced with the actual value. And once it has been replaced with the actual value, so there is nothing that you can do about it. You can do using vanilla JavaScript. You can just go there and can change the text. But once this is done, you cannot associate it with something else.
Okay. Once that replacement is done, then other view component cannot handle that. That is what the reason is. Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, so this placement of this keyword message, if there was one more of it at the second level, say after div app2, even that would immediately get replaced with Kumar, is it?
Yes, correct. It would.
So it looks for all message and replaces all of them.
Yeah, of course. Whenever it will see that, okay, this JavaScript file has started its execution. So whenever it will see this message placeholder, it will replace each of that placeholder with the actual value that it has.
Only inside the defined element, right?
Only inside it, of course, yeah.
Okay.
So if you have something written outside this app one, outside the scope of this app one, then it won't go. It will remain as it is until and unless there is some other view object that is binded with that. Okay, so is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the other announcement that we have for all of you is that the project statement has been released. So there is a section called Final Project on the course portal. You can visit and can see that what the problem statement is. So those who have completed Modern Application Development 1 course in the last term, that is Gen term, they'll see that the problem statement for this course is something that is built on top of what they have designed or built in the last term. But those who have completed in September term, they will find this project completely different. And yeah, according to the the deadline. So I hope you all are aware that there is basically a policy change for this term student. Means whoever is enrolled in any project course from this term onwards, they basically don't have any deadline as such. What we'll do is we'll basically open the submission link basically every month, and whichever month you want to submit your project, you can do that, and your Viva will be scheduled somewhere near to the same month in which you made the submission. And we are hoping that your Viva would be completed in the 2 months whenever you made a submission. So the first set of submissions or the first submission link, we are expecting to open it by the end of month of July, or probably in the first week of August, that we are yet to decide. So once we'll open that, we'll accept the submissions. So whoever is ready with their project and is ready to appear for the Viva, they can submit their project that time, and we'll process all of those submissions in some time. And after that, we'll ask you to choose your Viva slot. So of course, all of you would have gone through that Viva slot booking process in the last term or in the September term. So this time it is going to be a little bit different. There is no deadline as such, as I have already mentioned before. You can submit your project and appear for the Viva in whatever time frame you want. So basically, you can take as much as time as you want in order to complete your project and appear for the Viva. So this is the flexibility that is given to this term students and whoever will be enrolling going forward. Will the problem statement remain the same? I'm not sure if you are a Jan term Modern Application Development 1 student or September term. So if you are a giant term student, you will find the problem statement to be very much similar. But this time, so basically last time you built everything with the help of Jinja and Flask. This time you need to replace your front-end components with Vue. So the rendering was happening on server end in the Mad1 project, but this time you have to replace that rendering with the client-side rendering using Vue. And of course, there are some backend jobs as well, which you will get to study going forward into this course. Yeah, so any doubts regarding project submission or anything?
Yes, sir, I'm having a doubt.
Yeah.
I just gone through that PPT. It says what components we are required to use. It has mentioned Vue.js advanced with CLI as well. So
No,
by what week we will
that
be?
is not mandatory.
If you want, that is required, not necessary. But by what week we will be able to cover CLI topic? That I just wanted to know.
CLI, we will be introducing it as at a very high level. Okay, so we'll just tell you that how a project can be set up using CLI setup. There will be a screencast that will be providing for the same purpose, but yes, we won't be going into much of those details. Our focus will remain on using the CDN version of.
Okay, sir. And what about Redis?
Redis, we will be covering it in much details. You should be be able to use it in project.
By what week? By what week? I just wanted to know. Because we.
Well, if I talk about week, I would say week 9 or week 10. I'm not exactly sure about which week this Redis comes in, but I'm hoping it to be week 10 or week 9.
Fine, sir. Okay, understood. Thank you, sir.
So there's a question in the chat. If we decide to do the project during the next term, will the problem statement will be the same? That is a quantified cell. Yes, if you are enrolled in the theory course in this term, you are automatically enrolled into the project. And whenever you want to appear for the Viva, you can. So you are given this flexibility to submit the project at whatever stage you want. So I would suggest you to watch the session that happened, I guess, yesterday. The announcement for project split and all. You can watch that session, and I hope all of your doubts will get. Is that okay, Snehil? Okay, great. All right, so all the best to all of you. I hope you have enough time and you can work on your project. Of course, there is no deadline again, as I have mentioned, but if you want to aim to complete the project as early as possible, so you should start working on the project from now itself. Will we not have a live coding session today? We are going to have the live coding session as usual. So if there are no more questions, I would like to hand it over to Narendra, who would start with the Vue component center.
Thanks, Abhishek. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Narendra, you are.
Yeah, you can stop sharing your screen.
Sure, thanks.
So today's agenda is we will try to decompose our app, the app which we built, the to-do app, in multiple components, and we'll learn how we can share data within the components. So the first thing we will do, we will decompose that app in different components, and all the codes which are related to those components will be in separate file. And then we will also learn how we can share data between those components. So this is the agenda, and if the time permits, we will talk about the slots also. So I'll share my screen and start the session. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So are you going to modify the previous code or going to write it from scratch?
No, I'll write it from the scratch.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So the first thing we will do, we'll create two files. The first one is index.html, which is markup for our app, and second is app.js, which is the Java, which will be the JavaScript file for main JavaScript file for our app. So inside the index.html, I will copy and paste this code, the index.html, which I have written. There is not much to explain in this file. So it's similar. It is similar to the file which we used in the previous session. So we have the script. We have CDN attached. We have the CDN for view 2, and we have also attached a style sheet. For now, let's comment this. And we have a div with the ID app, and we have a script with source app.js, and the new thing which I have added is type is equal to module. If you remember from one of the lectures, if you want to import the JavaScript file as a module, you need to specify the type property, like type attribute inside the script tag. If you will not write this type is equal to module, so you cannot import the JavaScript file as a module. That's why the type is equal to module is important. Okay. So,
sir, I have a question.
yeah.
Sir, I wasn't there in last session, so it might be a repetition, but can you tell me as to why the meta tags are to be used at all, and a little bit about the CDN part?
Okay, the meta tag is extra information about the HTML.
Yes, sir. Can we choose to not have it?
Yeah, you can remove it.
Okay. And what is it about the CDN?
It came with the template which the VS Code generated. That's why I kept all these things. But it is good to have these meta tags, because if you see the viewport, the meta tag with viewport, it will automatically adjust the font size and all with the different screen size.
Okay.
And this is the character set UTF-8. It will use the UTF-8 character set. Yeah, and the next question.
I didn't understand the CDN.js deliver net line.
Okay, if you want to use the Vue.js, you can use it. You need to attach the CDN of the Vue.js. That's why we need. Yeah, if you will not use this CDN, you will not be able to create the Vue instance.
Okay, right. Like we do Bootstrap CDN.
Yeah, so similar.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So I have one more doubt. Like, I tried installing the Bootstrap CDN things, but it's showing me error and it's not coming. I took the CDN from the website, Bootstrap thing.
You tried attaching the Bootstrap CDN, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, in VS Code, sir. Because previously I was using in Replit and it was working. Just now I shifted and started coding in VS.
Maybe if you are using the Bootstrap, then you need to attach two CDNs, one for the style sheet and one for the JavaScript. Maybe you have missed ones. I don't know.
Okay.
I need to take a look at your code, then only I can.
Okay. I'll put it in the chat later, sir. Then you can check it out. Yeah, the links.
So there can be a possibility that your browser may be blocking that CDN. So what you can basically do is that you can just simply copy that CDN link and paste it in your browser and see if your browser is basically allowing you the access to that link. If your browser is not allowing that, you won't be able until unless you get rid of that.
That's what the error shows, that the page cannot be reached or not, or something like that. Okay, I'll check it in the browser and let you know. So, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So should we proceed now? Okay. So the
Yes,
first
sir.
thing you do is you create a view model. You create a view instance, view, and then you pass a options object here. So let me the first option is EL option, and here you define the ID of the element on which you want to mount your view instance. So this is the EL element. So it will go and check for the app, check for the element which has ID app, and now you can access all the data inside this div, inside this div element using that curly braces or that placeholder. So if I will type the data here and write the, let's name it test, and I'll call it hello. So you can go inside the div with the ID app, and now you can access this data here. Let me check whether it's working, whether I have integrated this JavaScript file correctly. Yeah, you can see that the hello is rendered. That's why, I mean, that means that our JavaScript, we have successfully created the view instance, and our HTML file is able to access the data inside our view instance. So now we will proceed.
Sir, the element data and test and all is standard way of doing it, or can I call it something other than data?
No, this one is the standard.
Okay, inside that is not standard, right?
No. I mean, if you see, data is an object. Data is a property of this view object, and this data, the property is a object, and this object has a property test. So data is always an object. So inside that object, you can create multiple properties. The way you create object in JavaScript, just think like this. So data is,
okay.
Yeah.
Sir, also I am lagging behind, but can you tell me how this is different from the Jinja that we were doing last term?
The Jinja, what the Jinja generate the HTML on the server side. By the server side means you have kept your application on some server, and if some user is asking for the file, the Jinja will generate the HTML on the server and send that HTML to the client. But here, all the rendering is happening inside the browser.
Okay.
Yeah. So the rendering is happening inside on the client side. Okay. So now what I will do, so we have a view instance. So what I will do, I will create a component. So let's understand the basics of the component. So now let's call it header component. Header component. The way you create a component, a global component, is new GUE dot component, and you pass the name of the component. So this is the syntax to create global component. I will come to the global and what is global component and what is local component. But the firstly, I am trying to like explain what is the global component. The header component, and then you pass the options object. I'll explain everything. So just hold on a second. Slash div. So we have a new view component, header component. Now if I will go and write the component inside this component, I will go to the, okay, I made some mistake. Okay, don't use that. Yeah. So what happened is I created a view component. This is a syntax to create a view component, and the first argument of this, when you create the view component instance, the first argument you pass is the name of the component. If you go to the dex.html and see, so I have written the header component just like the tag we use in HTML. So we are creating our own tag. So in this case, I have created a tag called header component. And what is template? The template is the markup for this component. By the markup, I mean whatever is written inside this template, a template property will be rendered inside the this header component. If I will add one more header component, I will copy this. And if I will add this, so you can see that you will see the same content here also. So you can add as much components as you want. So this is how you create the global component. By the global component means you can use this component inside any components. So when I will create the local component, you will understand the difference between the global component. If you see this, the view instance, I have not defined, I have not mentioned anywhere about the component that this, I have not written the component options, but still I am able to use it inside this this div, inside this div. Is it clear how you create the global component?
Clear, sir.
Okay.
So this is like an HTML tag, as in like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
can we write, like we can write anything inside that as well? Is it?
Yes, yes. No,
Okay.
if you write here anything, it will not be rendered.
Oh.
Yeah, it will, everything inside the header component will be replaced by the template which you have mentioned here.
But can we still put anything in there? Like, can we still, like, how do we without, like, can we specify something in HTML without, like, as you specified one thing in the template, okay, but we want to use more stuff like later down the line, basically. So is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible, but you need to learn the slot also. I will cover it in the later part of the session if we will have, I mean, if the time permits.
Okay.
But you can, yeah, but you can pass some HTML from the parent. Like from here, you can pass some data. Like if you have written hello here, I'll just show you. All you have to do is inside this, define a slot, right? Slot here. Slot here. So whatever you have written here, that will be written inside this slot.
Oh, got it. Okay, sir.
Okay. But you need to like provide the slot inside your template.
Sir, I didn't understand how the slot works.
No, whatever you have written inside this component, between the opening tag and the closing tag, you have written some text, hello, right? This text, I mean, whatever you have written here will replace the slot, this slot tag. Like hello from the header is coming from this template, and this slot is being replaced by the hello which you have written here.
I'm still not able to understand, sir.
This is sort of similar to the Jinja variables that we used. You can.
No, it's different. I mean, this is the
So I think-
HTML you are passing from like parent to child. See what I meant. What I mean when I am saying parent. So this is a view instance, okay, and this is the another view instance. This is
Yes,
the component is also a view instance, and what you are doing here inside this this one, you are writing another. I mean, this header component is the children of this div. So what I'm saying that you are passing some data. So this hello is inside this div. So what you are doing, you are passing hello to this header component. So the HTML for header component is written inside this this template. Okay, and inside this template you have mentioned a slot tag. So what will happen whenever you will write something inside this header component, like whatever is written between the starting tag and ending tag will be replaced. I mean, it will replace this slot tag here.
Got
I mean,
it,
if you
sir,
see
got
that,
it.
yeah, hello from the header is written here, and after that hello is written, and this hello is coming from here. And if I will write world here, so you can see that the world is written here. So slot is being replaced by the world.
Right. So if there was no slot, that hello would not get displayed, is it?
No. If you remove this, you can see that it disappears.
Okay. Everything inside that is ignored, and this thing will replace that, is it?
Yes.
Okay,
if you-
got it, sir.
So this is the global component. Global component means you can use this component inside any component. But if you are creating the local component, I will come to that how we can create the local component. You'll have to mention specifically that. Okay, let me write a local component. So I will create a component. I'll call it footer. I'll call it footer, and I'll just create an object, and inside that object, I will write the template option, and this template option will have div and /div, and I will write hello from footer. So this is an object. If you see that the footer is an variable, I mean footer is an object, this one. So what you will do once you have this object, you can write the component option components option, and components options will be object, and the footer component, I'll write footer component. So I'll explain once I will finish writing this footer component. This will,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
While defining that footer component, the local one, we haven't specified its name as we done it for
No,
the
no.
global component. It's not needed for local.
No,
Line number-
it's mandatory. I mean, the name will be this one. So when you are
Okay.
defining the components option inside this options object, from the components of option, a components option is an object, and that object has a property footer component, and that the value of this footer component is this object. So what will happen if you see the similarity, the name of this this local component will be footer component, which you have written as a key, and the options object which have been mentioned here will be that object. So all you are doing,
No, what I actually wanted to know in line number 1, we are giving a dedicated name as the header component.
yeah,
While in line number 6, we are not mentioning that. Is it
No,
because
no.
every time I'm going to call it locally, so I can use a different key and I can proceed? Is it like that?
yeah, but different key I don't understand. I mean, you will-
Now this component locally I'm using with a name footer underscore comp.
yeah,
Suppose I create one more local component and there I want to use this section, so I can call it by some another name, say footer one
Yes.
and dash form. Is that reason? That's why we are not mentioning the name in line number 6. That is what correct that I'm getting.
yeah. I don't know how you will use. Let's say you want to use this local component in some other component, not in the root component.
At multiple
Yeah,
places.
there
Suppose,
you can change the name.
Okay.
But
Understood.
that name will be applicable inside that component only.
That local component only.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Getting, sir. Thank you.
Sir, why is the footer not a view component object or a view object?
Which one? Line number?
6, sir. 6. Why did we not declare it as an object?
So we have declared it as an object. This is an object. So the footer component is an object, and this one is the name. I mean, this is the syntax created by the view creator.
Yeah, so the keyword view is not there. That's why I asked.
No,
But
it's not required.
okay, sir.
So if I would like to show you the similarity. If you look at this component, the way we have created the global component, we have mentioned the name as the first argument, and then we have passed in object, right? So
Oh, okay, right. Yes, sir.
yeah. So the view will use this key as a name and the value as a options object. So you only need to create a object that has all that options like template, data, and all. And now I can use this inside this. So if I will write the footer component, the component slash component, you can see that there is a line called footer. Hello from the footer is here. So I will show why this is called the global component and this is called the local component. If you go inside this footer component and write a header component here, this is messy, but I'll write it here. Footer header component. header component. So you can see that after the hello from the footer, the hello from the header is coming. That is, the header component inside this footer component is working. So you can use this global component inside any component. I am using this header component inside the global component and inside this footer component also. So I can use in all of the components this a global component. But if I want to use this footer component, which is a local component, inside this global component, I will not be able to use it. If I will write footer here, footer component, so you can see, let me remove one header component.
Sir, so here the order of writing this thing does not matter, is it?
What do you mean by order?
Because footer component we are using even before we define footer. That works, is it?
Yeah, that will work.
So the entire template gets compiled once and then it happens, is it?
Yes. So what I'm trying to say here, that this is a global component, so we can use it inside any component. But even if you will use this footer component inside this global component, so you cannot use it inside this this component, because this is a local component and you have written, you have mentioned the components option inside this root component. So you can not use it inside this component. So by the global component means you can use it inside any component, but by the local component means you will have to mention the components option if you want to use that local component. It's not available to all the components. You will have to mention first. I have mentioned that I am going to use this component, footer component, whose option object is footer comp. That's why I am able to use it inside this div element. But if you see, I have not written this header component. I have not mentioned this header component inside this components option, because it's global and it is available for all the components. So now I will remove this one because I don't want this. I will remove the hello from here also. And this I will also remove. And I don't need this data. So now what I will do, I will create a new directory here and call it components. And I will put all my components. Now I will create the component which is not on this page. I will create separate file for the separate components. So let's, yeah.
As we are creating separate file for separate component, are all those global?
No, they are all local.
Okay, and where should be the global with the main app only, the definition? As we are writing new view L data as the main part here at the bottom from line number 13 to 19. So global will always come with that part.
I mean, you want to say if you want to create a global component, you need to write it inside this file.
No. Whenever we want to create a global component, which is we are writing from line number 1 to 5, that will that always come with the definition of our view app, which is from 19 to 13 to 19 line numbers?
Yeah, I don't think so. You can like separate it. You can write it inside the like different separate file also, I guess.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So what I will do, I will create a file and call it. I will start with the footer component. JS. And I will copy this constant here and paste it here. I will remove this. The footer component. And if you remember from one of the lectures, the way you export a variable from some JavaScript file is writing default. If you want to export only one variable or object, you use export default. By default, this will be exported from this file. Component. So now what I will do, I will come here and import this from code. So what happened here, what I did, I copied that object from here and created a new file, footer component, and I have pasted that here and then exported this object from this file. And once I have exported this from this file, I can import it inside our main app.js here. And then I will be able to use this footer comp, which is available inside this component for creating the component. Is it fine?
Yes, sir. Sir, the name of the file is capital footer. Shall it be small?
Yeah, I think.
Can we give any? Sir, can we give any name? Or it should be
yeah, you can give any name, but make sure the name of this component doesn't match with an HTML. I mean, already defined HTML tag.
Yes, sir. Okay.
That's why I have written footer dash component, because if I will write footer only, that will conflict with the HTML tag footer.
Not that, sir. We have given the name as a footer com. F is small and C is capital. Yeah. The name of the file is capital footer com.js. Capital F is there. I just wanted to know the name should be same or different as that of.
No, it can be different. It can be anything. If you change the name, yeah. All this one, the file name can be anything. I can
file name
hello or anything. Yeah. So this one, the name of the import statement, the import what you are importing here should match with this value, because we are exporting this footer comp. So we will import this footer comp here. And now we have this variable footer comp available inside this module. So I can use it inside this file.
Yes, sir, clear.
So, and the next thing I will do, so the header component I will leave. I'll create one more component inside this component and we'll call it main component. So the main component, and you don't have to create an object and then you export it from this file. You can directly write export default and then write the object here. So that way you will like save some space. You don't have to write the const and then define an object and then you write the export default and then the variable name. You can like directly write export default and create an object. Template. Hello from main. This is template and I'll go to the app.js and now I will create main component right. So but if you are not writing the object name explicitly, I mean if you are not writing it this way, and if you are just creating an object and writing the export default, you are not storing it inside any variable. So the name of this object will become the name of the file.
Sir, will you please repeat this part once again? I didn't understand the requirement of export main component, requirement of main component, and what is this default actually represent? What will be used in real time, like where it will be useful?
Okay, this component.
Yeah.
I mean the way the structure of any HTML page is, you have a header, footer, and the main component.
Yes.
So what I have done is I have created a header component, footer component. Now I am creating a main component, and all my all the things that I will write will go inside this main component. That's why I created the main component.
It will go inside main component's template part.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason why I am explaining here, I mean, if you see this footer component, we have explicitly defined an object and stored it in the footer component variable and then exported this footer component. So we
are divided. Okay, please, sorry, sir.
So when we will import this component, this variable, the variable name will be the name which we have mentioned inside here. But if you see the main component, we are not storing this object in any variable. We are just writing export default and a variable and a object. So we are not storing it in any variable. So if you will import it inside the app.js, the name of that object, I mean this object, will be the name of the file name.
Okay, sir.
So
that is main comp.
Yeah.
We are dividing here DOM into only 3 components. That is header, main part, and footer.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, now understood, sir. Clear.
So we have a footer component. Now I will write the main component.
So what if I wanted to have the separate file for header component as well? Then what will be there in global?
I mean, I think you need to store it somewhere, and then you can like import.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But you generally create the local component in the view.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
The global component.
I will try, and if any doubt is there, I will ask on this course.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have three components, and one more thing I wanted to say, or I wanted to show, if you inside this, the main component, if you like the template, I will just copy and paste all this. So there should be a single root component. So I will write the div here. So let's say I will write hello here. The thing, I mean, the point I am trying to make here is, so if you will create a template inside your view instance, then anything that you have written inside this div, inside this div with the ID app, it will be completely replaced by the template. Like if you see the DOM, this element will be removed from the DOM, and inside the, I mean, instead of this div element with ID app, this, I mean, this element will be rendered. I mean, this one will be ignored if you will write the template. If you will write the template option inside your view instance. The reason why I have created this format is, if you when you will learn if you will see the view CLI, the template it generates is something, it's something similar to this. So there will be a index.html. Inside that index.html, there will be a div with ID app, and you don't write any HTML inside this index.html. Everything you write inside your component. That's why I have created the format like this. Now what I will do, I will create inside this main component, I will start writing the components. I mean, I will start making some new component and start adding inside this main component. So now inside this component, I will create one more component. I will call it task.js. Task.js. So inside the main component, I will not write the hello from the main. I will, so header and footer and everything inside this header and footer will be a div, will be a main component. And inside this main component, I will create a ordered list /ol /ol, and then inside this task, I will create import default and template li/li, and I will write task here, and inside this main component. So the first thing I will require components, and then inside this component I will write task task.js. And inside this, now I can use this task component. So the two new things I have added from the last live session is header and footer. These two things I have added just to demonstrate how you can what are the multiple ways you can create the view instance. And now I will build everything inside this this main component. So if you see any standard website, what happens is the header and footer remains the same for all the pages. Only the main section changes. So is there any doubt here? Because inside this main, I have I have created the component task, and I have now I am using this task component inside this main component. So this is the task, and this is where I have like defined the components, because this is a local component, so we need to specify inside this components option.
So can you show task.js for a while?
There's nothing inside this. This is a list.
Only that. Okay.
But you don't want to show the same data inside this task, inside the template of this task. I'll come back in a minute. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay.
So
But I don't.
Main comp once again.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. In that components part, in components part, why that key is not in quotes? That is line number 10.
Okay, VS Code has removed it. If you will not use the dash sign, it will remove that one. Yeah. So even if you can write it like this also, but the VS Code will remove it.
Sir,
The
why
reason
is
I
the-
did not understand. Can you please repeat the reason?
VS Code is removing it. I am not removing it.
Yes, sir. But the reason why it is removing that is what I'm asking. Any specific reason for that?
Maybe this is the standard way you write the key if you have not used the hyphen.
Okay.
If you have not used the hyphen, you don't need to write that code. Maybe that's the reason. But I will remove this component. So what I am saying here, if you will see the task here, if you will see the task here and go to the task, every time I will use this task, it will print the same value. So what I want to.
Sir, why are we writing task like this? It's not even a tag, and it's not plain text. I don't understand why we are writing task like this.
I mean, this is similar to tag. It's a self-closing because we are not writing anything between the opening tag and closing tag. So we don't have to write the opening tag and closing tag. I mean,
can you skip the slash, the last slash?
It will not work. Then you will have to write the closing tag there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
This is the self-closing tag.
Yeah, okay, got it.
There are multiple tags, self-closing tags inside in the HTML. If you see the input tag, it is self-closing tag. Okay, what I'm trying to say here. So I want this value to be dynamic, and I want this value to come from this main component because I'm going to write all our variable, all the data inside this main component. I'll explain again. So one thing to note here is if you are using the data property inside any component, inside a component, other than the main view instance, you need to write it as a function. What I meant by this is like if you are writing the data option inside the main view instance, you can write it as a property. But if you are writing it in an component, then you need to write it as a function. And whatever you will be return, that will be the value of that data property. Was that clear?
Sir, can you repeat that once?
What I said, if you see the data, how I created the data option inside our main view instance, where I have created the view instance. I mean the instance which we created using the view constructor. So here the data is not a function. But if you are writing the data option inside any component, then you need to write it as a function. You cannot write it like this. It will not work. You will have to write it as a function.
Okay, sir.
So this is the task array. So what I want, so if you see the task, this task is the child of this component. That task, what is the main component? This task is the child of this main component. What I meant by the child is we are using the task inside the template of this main component. So in this sense, this task is the child of main component. So what I want to, and the data here is inside the main component. That is, the data is for, this data, the data is of main component. This is main component's data. I want to pass this data to its child task. Am I clear?
So import task from that should not be /component/task.js.
Yeah, line number 1.
Yeah, it is in same folder. Sorry.
And for
No, I was thinking it is in the same folder, no? Components all
yeah. That's why
folder.
only one dot.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to what I'm trying to explain here, if you see the main component, this task component is the child of this main component, because this task, we have written this task in, we are using this task component inside this main component. So in this way, this task component is child of this main component, what I want, but this data belongs to this main component. I cannot access this data, the task array data, inside this task component. So I need to pass this this data to this task data. This task component. So the way you pass the data is using the props. Task data. So what will happen? Whatever data I will send from this parent to this task, that will be stored inside this props task data. I will write some code and then I will explain. So let's say I want to iterate over the task array, and for all the items inside this task array, I want to create a task component. So the way I can do it is d for, and then if you remember from the last live session, item and index task array. In task array, what I will do, I will pass the task data is equal to then if I'll go here and write the task data, you can see the mango and apple is coming from this main component. Is there any question? Because I feel like this is really, this is really important concept.
Sir, I'm getting error in main.com.js. It says that property assignment expected.
Property assignment expected.
Comma expected, but I have given comma. It's not able to detect.
Where?
At
It's very hard.
line number 8. Yeah, line number 8.
So maybe after that div, you need to like write a comma.
I did it, but still it shows error. Anyways,
I will upload it on the GitHub.
yes, sir. Yeah.
So what happens is like main component has a child component task. All the components which I will write inside the components option will be the child component of this main component. And I want to pass, and this data belongs to the main components. I want to pass the data from this parent to the child component. And so the way you pass the data from parent to child is using props. So here I have created a prop called task data. So whatever I will pass to this task data will be stored inside this task data. So for here, if you if you see that when I am using this component, I am attaching this task data. I'm like binding this task data with the item. So in some sense, what I am doing, I am passing this task data and the task data to this task component. And I am passing the item which I am getting from here. So when I am iterating over the task array is being, the item belongs to the single item and index belong to the index of that item inside this task array. So what I'm doing here, I am passing this task data to this task, and the value of this task data is the item. So and this array has two elements. That's why the v-for is creating two elements, the two task components. The first one will pass the data mango, and the value of the task data will be the mango, and for the second component, the value of the task data will be apple. And that's why this task data is being maintained here. Okay, I will go to the, copy this and go to the Chrome. So if you see the structure, there is a root component, and the child of the root component is header, main, and footer. And inside the main component, you can see there are two child, task and task. There are two childs, task, and the props for the task one is mango, and the props for task two is apple. So you can see everything. So if you go to the main component, you can see the data is task array, and which has two values. The first one is mango, second is apple. And if you go to the footer component, there is no data property, there is nothing. That's why nothing is showing, and the header component has only template. That's why no data or props is being shown. But inside the main component, you can see that the main component has a data property task array, which is an array of two items, mango and apple. And inside the main component, there are two children. Both are the task, and the first task has the data props mango, and the second has the apple. So this is what I was talking about. Root is the main component, and it has three children's, header, main, and footer. And this main component has two children's, both are tasks. There might be like multiple different components, but in our case, there are two components, and both are of the task type. The reason for creating the component is you can use it you can use it for multiple times. So I hope this will help. So this is the way you can pass data from child to parent. Now we will learn how we can pass data from child to parent. So now what I am saying, so this task component is a child of this main component. So the right now what we have done, we have passed main to task, and now we want to pass data from task to main. So what I will do, I will create a button here. List will make a div. Do it. Okay. So we created the similar kind of thing we did in the last session. We created span and then again a button. If you want, you can create the separate. You can create the like a separate component which has the button as a template, but that will be overkill. So I am skipping that part. I am writing the button inside this task component, and this button will say me. So this is how it looks now. So one more thing I would like to get from the parent is index. So if I go to the main component, so like we pass the task data. The task data, if you see the value, I mean, this is the task data. Whatever you will bind with the task data will be passed to this component. So the similar way we can like pass the index also. Index is equal to index. So to check, what I will do, I will delete me, and here write the index. So you can see that the index is also being passed to this component. The reason we passed index, because we want to remove the element in, we want to remove the element of that index from this array. So if I will click this delete me, then I want to remove the element with the array 0 from this task array. That's why I have like passed this index. So now we have access of the index. What I will do, I will. So when I will click on this button, I will give a message to the main component that, I will give a message to the main component that please delete the item from the task array with the index, and the index I will pass from that child to this parent component. So let me, the way you do, it's, you remember the event, the way you write the click handler. This statement says whenever the user clicks on this button, run this function. So emit is a emit is a special function which we use to emit certain a custom event from child to the parent. So if I will emit some delete task, and along with this, I am also going to pass the index. So this is the click event. When someone clicks on this button, this will emit a delete task event. This will emit a delete task event, and it will also pass a data called index, which is this one. So I will pass this index to the main component, and I can handle that event inside this main component, which is the parent of this task component. So now, what was the name? Delete task. So whenever this delete task event happens, what I will do, I will run some method which I will define inside this component. Delete task. I call it delete task method. I will explain it once again. Once I finish writing, I will explain it once again.
So don't we need to pass index while calling that method as a parameter?
No, it will be automatically passed.
Okay, we did that purpose. Means,
the last time we did that, but if you are emitting some event from the child to parent, and if you are passing the data and you are handling that event inside the method, that data will be directly passed to that method. You don't have to write it here.
Yeah, clear.
Delete task method and task index. And then I will write this dot task array dot splice, and then task index. We'll write 1.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
This task index that we are passing as a parameter that we did not specify anywhere. Now it will know what is it.
No. What happened? Why is this? Delete task method. Now it will work. So if I will click on, this will be deleted. So I will explain once again what happened. So if I will go to this tree again, there's something wrong with this view inspector. So I will explain it from here. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to like pass an event delete task from this task which is the child of main component, to the main component. So the way you do it, you use the emit method, which is a special method built in Vue, which you use to pass, which you use to emit emit a custom event. So here the custom event is delete task. So if you, and you are also passing the index, you are also passing the index from this child to the parent, which is main component. So if you go to the main component, so this is a delete task. Delete task is a custom event which is coming from the task.js, from the task component. So this component, I mean, when we write the under at the rate, it is equivalent to v on. So what it says that whenever this event happens, that delete task event happens, you run this delete method. So whenever some user will click this button, this component will emit the delete task event. That event will happen. So this function will be fired. And what this function is doing, this function is taking this task array, and this parameter will be automatically passed. You don't have to mention here. It will be passed as the first argument if you are passing it from the child to parent. So task index, and then what you are doing, you are using the splice method to remove one element. This is the count, the number of element you want to remove from the task array, and starting from the index which has been mentioned here. So if you click on this delete me, let me refresh. If you are clicking on this delete me, then one will be passed to the parent, and the value of the task index will be 1. So so one element will be removed from this task array starting from the index 1. So now you know how to pass data from parent to child, and you also know how to emit a custom event from child to parent. So is there any question? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay. So I also wanted to cover how you can v-model the data from how you can v-model the data with a component. So till now what we have learned, that how we can v-model some element with the data, not the component. I mean the data is not present in some separate component. The data was present inside that view instance. But I think, and I also wanted to cover the slot. So I will cover the slot first. And let me cover that one also. So I will first create a component, separate component, and I will call it input. So before I create a input component and we model the value of that input box with the data inside the component, I wanted to show how actually the V model works. So if you'll go to the component basics, so everybody knows that the V model is a V model we use to we use for two-way binding with some variable with two variables. So when you are writing the input V model search text, this statement is equivalent to this statement. what this statement says, that vbind, what vbind means, when you will change this search text, the value will change. You are binding the value, the value property with this search text. That is, if you will change the search text, the value property will also change. And on the other hand, this is one-way binding. So bind is used for one-way binding. And that the direction is, if you change the search text, the value will change. And v on, as we have like seen the multiple, I mean, what we say, the multiple events, like input event. If the input event happens, what you do, you assign the value of that event dot target dot value. If you remember, this kind of syntax we used when we were like learning the journey, when we were learning about how to create the to do app using the vanilla JavaScript. So there we used the target dot value. So what it is saying, whenever someone is inputting some data inside this input box, you assign the value to the search text. That is, this is the other direction binding. Like here, you are when you change the search text, the value of the input box will change. And using this one, if you will change the value which you have inputted inside the input box, the value of search text will change. So this is how it works. But if you will v-model, if you will try to v-model it using some inside some component, then this, I mean, the v-model will not work the same way. So here the v-bind with value is the search text, and v on input is equal to search text dot event. It is not the value. It is whatever you will pass, whatever you will emit from the component will be stored inside this event variable, and that will be assigned to the search text. So when you are using the view component, when you try to like use the view component and try to bind the data which is available inside this view component to with the component which is available inside the parent component, then you can let me come back afterward. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are audible.
So I'll try to write the code and then I will explain there. So inside the input component, what I will do, I will copy and paste this page. You can go through this page and see how this v model works. Export default template. Input. Inside the div, I will write the type equal to X, and then I will write the placeholder also. So we have the template for the input component. Now I will add it inside this main component. And then I will throw the name input component. Input component, input component.js. Now I will write it before the where. As I don't have to write the closing tag here, I will use it as self-closing. So you can see that I have created a input box. So I wanted to show. So what I will do, I will bind the value of the input box with the data. I'll create one more data task data. Right. Let's make it null. So I want to bind this task item data with whatever I will input inside this input box. So if you see this input box is a separate component. So the data which is inside the main component is not accessible to the input component. So technically we cannot bind the data which is from the main component to the input element, the value of the input element which is inside the input component. So we cannot directly use the V model here. So if I will use the V model here, V model is equal to task item. If the input component is not defined outside this main component, it would have been worked. But because this input component has been defined outside this main component, I will have to do some extra work. So what I will do, I will go to the here, and then from here, what I will do, I will create. I will have to write two props. The first one is value, and the second one is value is enough. So we have a value. What we need to do, I will explain everything once I will finish writing this code. Value, and also emit. Is equal to, I will have to emit event from here, input event from here, and the data I need to pass event dot target event dot target target dot. So what we are doing here, so whatever the value from the main component, we have used the V model, and as we know, the V model is equivalent to this statement, V bind value. I mean, the value, this will be passed to the child component, the value as a value. So whatever the value of the search text will be, it will be stored inside the prop value, and then it also automatically handles the input event. That's why I am emitting the input event from the child, and what it does, it like assigns the value that the input that the child is sending to this parent to the search text. So now we have, so okay, for input component. So the input component, the value of the props. Now what we are doing, we are binding the value prop with the, we are binding the value attribute with the value prop, and we are also listening for the input event. And whenever the user inputs some value, we are emitting a input event, which is automatically handled because we have used the V model on the on the parent. And what it is saying, it is like sending the value, the event.target.value, the whatever the value has been inputted to the main component. So now what I will do, I will create a button inside the input button. And I will call it add task. And here I will emit click. Whenever someone clicks, task, I will call it the add task. Okay, I'll have to emit custom event. We'll call this custom event as emit task, and then I don't need to like pass any data, because what I will do, once some user clicks the button which is inside the input component, it will emit a custom event add task. And what I will do, once that add task event happens, I will run a function which will just push the data, which is whatever the data is stored inside the task item, to this task array. So what was the name of this add task? What I need to do, I need to handle this add task event inside the main component. So where is the input? Yeah. So when this add task happens, please run this function add task array, and I will define this method here, add task array. What I will do, I will push this dot task array, this task array dot push. I will push this dot task item. So what is happening if you go to the input component? So the button is not inside the main component; it is inside the input component. So you need to emit an event that someone has clicked the add task button. So once someone clicks on the add task button, you are firing a add task event, and that you are handling inside your main component. So how you are handling? So whenever this add task event happens, you run the function add task array, and what this method is doing, add task array, this is just taking whatever is inside the task item and pushing it inside the task array. So let me check. Oh, yeah, it works. I will remove all this and we'll test. Apple. Okay, and what I will do, I will just link this task item. Equal to, I will click this. Add task, apple, mango, orange. And when someone clicks on this button, it will be deleted. So let me do one thing. Task items, I will just remove this index. So I think I have covered a lot of things today. So the things that we covered, how we can separate, how we can decompose our app into multiple components, and how I can write those components inside the separate files, and how those components can share data among them, and how we can remodel the data from how we can remodel the data with some component. This is what we covered in this lecture, in this slide session. So is there any question?
So when we are adding the items, so then every time it is being stored somewhere? Is
No,
it in the index?
No, it's being stored inside this array, task array. We are not storing it persistently. It's just a array.
Yes, even if it is being temporarily stored in this array, because this web page is being rendered from the index.html, correct?
Yeah, yes.
So if after adding say a few component or items, if we want to take a look which all items have been added without taking the look at the web page, then where can we find it?
It can be seen inside this view DevTools. Right now there is some glitch. I don't know what happened, but initially I was able to show. If you joined, if you have joined
Yes,
the
I was
session
able
from
to
the
see
start.
that. Yes, every task was after clicking on every task, the item was being shown.
Yes.
Yes, so that storage is somewhere internally implemented and it is not visible?
I mean, it's not. I don't understand your question. I mean,
My
you are able
query
to
is,
see inside. Yeah.
yeah, no, we are able to see every input and output on the web page on, I mean, on the local host web page, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then that is being that is coming from somewhere which where the things are being stored.
No, no, it's not being stored anywhere. It is just a task array. This is just an array. If you will refresh the page, it will be gone.
Okay, so if I, okay, so after
Let's see. So if I'll add a task mango and then apple, so I have added 2 tasks, but if I will refresh it, it will be gone.
so it's
Because
kind of,
this,
yeah, so
yeah,
temporary memory in the JavaScript.
yeah, this page will be re-rendered. So I mean, it will make the task array empty.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So is it possible to put that in database somewhere?
Yeah, yeah, it's possible, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, this
So are we going to see?
we will put it in the database. Don't worry,
Okay.
we will come to that.
Yeah. So on render, it will not be lost. If I
No.
refresh the page,
No,
it will not be
will
lost
not be
in that
lost.
scenario. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I just wanted to know.
Go ahead.
Sir, when are you going to share this code?
I'll share it today or maybe tomorrow.
I mean,
If
it
possible,
will be on the
please.
same GitLab link, no, which you had shared
Yeah.
earlier.
Yes, yes.
Can you just share the link over here?
The GitHub link.
Yes.
Okay, you can get it from the discourse. I'll have to. To do that. This was the code for the last session. I'll create a new repository and add everything. Repo. And then we'll share the code. I mean, we'll share the link.
Sir, is it possible for you to take one session on GitHub to push the contents from local machine to the cloud and again back from that? One session actually.
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
struggling with that actually. Not able to sync it properly. That fork and that what is that name extensions? I'm not able to manage with that.
Okay. We'll arrange one session then.
Yes, sir, please.
I'll again watch the today's live session. I was trying to do the coding alongside, but then some error was coming. I mean, not error exactly. The rendering was not happening properly. So after you share the code, I'll be using that. And if anything, I mean, any error happens, I'll put it on Discord.
Okay. Okay, I'll share the code. I mean, latest by tomorrow.
Thank you.
That will be better. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good night. Okay. So we'll close the session now then.
Okay, Narendra, shall I just add one thing?
Okay, you can.
Okay, so we are basically planning to schedule one more session in this week itself, as the next session that we are going to have, the regular live session on Saturday. That will be utilized for quiz 1 revision, as the quiz 1 exam is there on Sunday. So we are planning to have one revision for that on Saturday. So we were also thinking of adding one more session. So right now we have decided that we'll schedule it on Friday for the same timing being 11 to 1. I hope that timing would be suitable to most of you.
So in morning, na 11 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sir. Oh.
So in that session, that won't be a long session as we do usually. So the entire purpose of conducting that session is basically to walk you all through that app that was given as a practice lab assignment for week 4. That is that password meter application. So we'll also hope that you all must try at least once that what the approach should be in order to proceed with that app, and we'll probably consider all of your approaches. We'll discuss that what all things can be improved. I guess I saw one of you has already tried that. I saw that post on Discourse. I guess that was you, Chandrasekhar. I'm not entirely sure.
Yes, sir, I tried.
Okay. Yeah, so that is the purpose of conducting that session. We'll try to walk through the app, and we'll try to complete that app within the session. Okay. And as I said, the session that is scheduled on Saturday, we'll be utilizing it for the quiz contribution.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Yeah, so thank you all for attending this live session. And yeah, have a good night.
Thank you.